In the Messengers of Deception DVD series, what I explore, and it's certainly not exhaustive because there's so much to talk about, but in Messengers of Deception, we start off with Darwinism and Madame Blavatsky. Madame Blavatsky was a channeler. She's also called the mother of the New Age. And she would do an occult technique called automatic writing, where she would go lock herself into a room, go into a trance, a familiar spirit would then possess her, and she would take pen in hand and just write, and write for hours like this, without even knowing what she was writing because she's in a trance. That familiar spirit took over her body for that particular time, and through the occult means of automatic writing, she was able to produce voluminous works, which are really the basis of New Age theosophical teaching. What's interesting about Messengers of Deception, from there we go to Darwin. And why Darwin is not an occultist, Darwin has done more to undermine the Christian worldview than any other person before him, in my opinion. And is he a messenger of deception? Absolutely. I'm a biblical literalist and believe that the Most High God spoke everything into existence. I don't believe at all in evolution, any type of it, because DNA tells me that one kind produces its same kind. Mutations are often very, very harmful and detrimental to the DNA of a particular species. From there, we'll go into, let's say, Adolf Hitler, who certainly was a messenger of deception, right up into the modern era with the influx of gurus from India and the Near East that happened in the 60s, of course, and people like myself were caught up into that movement. We also discuss people like Rael, who's definitely involved in the modern UFO phenomena, who believes that he was sired by an extraterrestrial. So messenger deception it's not exhaustive, but there are certainly enough people that I discuss in this to give you a good overview of a type of deception which is happening in real time even as I speak. Okay, we're going to get into some fun and games here. This is, I gave you the primer. We've not been given a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So we walk into that. Now we're going to talk about messengers of deception. This is important because what this is, it's going to set the ground. This is actually the book after the one. This is from the book which I'm researching and will write after I finish Cosmic Chess Match. Hopefully this will come out about a year from where we are now. And it's some of these people that are mentioned, many of these people, in fact, all of the people, all these people that I will talk about in Messengers of Deception will be in that book and many more. This is, first of all, here's the caveat. This is not an exhaustive study of, let's say, Darwin. It's not. But what it is in sort of a thumbnail sketch, the essence. It boils down and sort of gives you the cliff notes of who these people are and what they did and how, in fact, that some of these people truly and literally are messengers of deception. What did they? What kind of deception? What did they sow? Well, they have deceived millions. How so? They've taken people's eyes off the one true God and put them over here. What does Jesus himself say? Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. For what? Many will come saying that, the Christ is now here. I am Christ. What, do you realize the absurdity of that statement? I mean, we sit in our pews, we go to church, and, the pastor gets up there, and my Lord said, many will come in my name, right? And we go, oh, yes, amen. But do we realize the absurdity of that statement to make? Because 2,000 years ago, there was no churches, no basilicas, no priests, no pulpits, no buildings, no pastors, no robes, no candles, no little niches like this, no icons, nothing. All man-made, every bit of it, every stinking bit of it. No popes with processions and big hats and cardinals with red hats and monsignors and confessionals and rosary beads and monks with funny haircuts and Virgin Mary statues. None of it existed. Get it? None of it. None of it. Not one. It's all man-made gobbledygook, every bit of it. It's all having a form of religion but denying its power. So Jesus tells us something which is totally absurd. He says, many will come in my name. Do not be deceived by that. Who is this guy? I mean, just picture, let's travel back in time. Ready? Let's open up our little time machine, step in, press the button, whatever, whoosh, here we are. And there's Jesus, and he's going, do not be deceived, many will come in my name. Oh, should I do the typical Jesus we see in the movies? Do not be deceived, Simon Peter. many will come in my name and wonder why I'm talking like James Earl Jones. But the bottom line is, many will come in my name and say that I am the Christ. I mean, do you realize how crazy that is for him to say that? Do you realize the absolute absurdity of that statement for him to make? Unless, of course, he was truly God, and he knows exactly what's going to happen. And he tells the people, because it's the rantings of an egomaniac. It is. But we look at these things and we just go, oh, that's interesting. We turn the page. Pastor's 5 minutes over this Sunday. Because it's been lost. The true meaning of it's lost. And we don't get impacted. We should be awed by he makes a statement like that 2,000 years ago. And what do we see today? False Christs everywhere. And we're going to get into some of these messages of deception that actually declare the Christ is now here. Benjamin Crabbe, 1982, you'll see that in a few minutes. The Christ is now here. You see? What does that mean? What is Yeshua, Jesus, telling us 2,000 years ago? Many will come in my name and say that I am the Christ. What happened in 1982? Real time, right here. So all this stuff is happening. But in order to get to 1982, by the way, this is a picture of the entity that appeared to Aleister Crowley. And Aleister Crowley, satanic, ritualistic, magic, magician, all that, that's what he drew. Remember that picture, because we're going to see more of these guys, and you will come to your own conclusion as to who these guys are. Why is Darwin a messenger of deception? Darwin completely stood the entire globe and changed Christianity forever. Now, I realize some of you here may be Darwinists, maybe partial Darwinists, fine. Bottom line is this, and we can argue this till the cows come home. If we are intellectually honest, Darwinism is nothing more than a theory. It has never been proven. It is a theory of evolution. No one knows. Don't believe me? Go rent, and this should be required viewing for everyone in this room. And I will point you to different things which you need to see if you have not seen these things. Write them down and go get them. If you have not seen Ben Stein's movie Expelled, it is an absolute must-see. Should be required viewing at least once a year, because there's so much information in that DVD, Expelled. Because this is what we're dealing with. And what he talks about in that is chilling, because he makes a link, and I'll make this link too in a few minutes, between Darwinism and the Holocaust. And that's exactly where we're going with this stuff. At the end of the movie Expelled, Stein sits down with Richard Dawkins, one of the world's premier evolutionists, okay? Now in academia, for those of you who are collegiate or who have jobs in academia, you know that if you're in biology and you even mention the word intelligent design, if you mention that, you lose your tenure. And that's the whole movie of Expelled, part of it. So he sits down we can't do that. See, that's intellectual fascism, and I'll tell you why. Because he sits down with Dawkins and he goes, okay, Rich, where did life come from? Where did life come from? And Dawkins, starts doing the little tap dance, because that's all he's got. He said, well, maybe millions of years ago in another galaxy, there was a race of aliens, and they seeded us here through panspermia or something. We don't. And Stein just sits there and goes, this is a ridiculous intellectual argument. In fact, it is bankrupt. It is void of anything. The bottom line is, guess what, folks? Dawkins doesn't have a flippin' clue, and neither does anybody else. If we are intellectually honest, we use just as much faith in believing in that as believing in the God of the Bible. But the difference is, the God of the Bible has a string of prophecies, doesn't he? Which happen over and over and over and over again. Where's the prophecies of Darwin? Zero. Or evolution. And you'll see what the problem with evolution is where it goes. And yet, the Most High God gives us specific prophecies which tell us who he is. When he creates ex nihilo from nothing, that's what he does. From nothing, whoosh. It really is, hey, Rock, watch me pull a rabbit and an entire universe out of my hat, thank you. That's what he does. You see, we don't know. But if we hold that position in academia, well, you're an ignoramus. You're stupid. you're a Neanderthal. That's how we're viewed. So Darwin, and I just want to talk about some of the things that good old Charlie, these are direct quotes from Mr. Darwin. The mystery of the beginning of all things is insoluble by us, and I, for one, must be content to remain an agnostic. That's pretty cool, I suppose. The universe we observe is precisely the properties we should expect if there is, at bottom, no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. What the deception, what the messenger of deception is, it usurps the God of the Bible. It takes away the God of the Bible and replaces it with Darwinism. And what does Darwinism teach? This is his own words. No design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. So, if we embrace that, it leads us to someplace. And it's someplace incredibly dangerous. And I'll get there. Incredibly dangerous. In the survival of favored individuals and races, during the constantly reoccurring struggle for existence, we see a powerful and ever-acting form of selection. So see, what is he really saying here? Favored individuals and races? See, no one wants to talk about that Darwinism, do they? No one wants to talk about favored individuals and favored races by natural selection. At some future point, not very distant as measured by centuries, the civilized races of man will almost certainly exterminate and replace the savage races throughout the world. Let's round up those Native Americans and kill them all. Let's do it to the Jews. We don't need them either. Obviously inferior. Blacks, Chinese, Italians, everybody. Everybody we don't like, we must exterminate them. Kill them. Because there's no good or evil. Right? There's no good, there's no judgment, there's no God, there's no good, there's no evil. Who cares? You say, well, LA, that's just extreme. Well, let me tell you something. In the Soviet Union, 65 million people died and perished in the gulags. In China, 70 million of their own people died in their gulag system. Why? Because when we remove God from the Bible, and you guys we should be walking in this stuff. Merry Christmas. I'll tell you Merry Christmas. You want Merry Christmas? I'll give you Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas is hallelujah. There is a God of the Bible, and I'm not ashamed to say, not happy, whatever. Merry Christmas. And by the way, it's not his real birthday. Let's get into it about that. He wasn't born on December 25th. That's more gobbledygook from the church and the Romans and Saturnalia and the pagan holidays. Nothing to do with anything. Can't say Merry Christmas. You might get busted singing a Christmas carol. Don't do that. You see, because the moment we walk away that all men are not created equal, we create slave balconies. And they had them in the north too. So I'm not picking on either side here, folks. They had the same thing in the north. Because somehow they're just not equal. Or the Jews are inferior. Or Cretans are always, like Paul says, stupid and lazy. See, what gives us worth, and we never can forget this, is that we are all made in the image and likeness of God. What separates the Constitution from any other part, any other document on this planet, is certain inalienable rights given by who? By our Creator. The moment we move away from that, in the public dialogue and in every other thing, we wind up with Soviet Russia, China, Saddam Hussein, any dictator, pick your poison, Adolf Hitler. Where do you think they get all this from? What do you think was their plan, their guidebook? Their guidebook was Darwinism.